I'm Marianne Hughes of Special Family Transitions, and I'm here at the University of St. Thomas with Dr. Tara Torres, the program chair for the Associate of Applied Science and Pragmatic Studies program.
Yes.
Dr. Torres, can you tell us about the program and the type of student that would be the best suited to attend here at UST?
Yes, so we have noticed, I'm a special educator, I have been by trade since 2000 or 2001, and we've noticed in that time that kids who learn differently typically don't have anywhere to go after high school. Parents often say that they've graduated to the couch, that they are hanging out looking for something to do, and they're kids who certainly can handle college level work. They can read and write and do math. They can think, they can socialize, they can react, they have relationships with people. They're community servants for sure, but they need academic supports and social supports that are different than what's usually found in a university setting. The kids that we are targeting, and I know they're adults, but the kids that we're targeting are kids who are probably more high functioning than a typical student who's in a developmental program at a community college. The vocational programs and those kinds of things are very rich for kids with severe and profound disabilities. But for kids that are higher functioning than that, but who also require more academic supports than are traditionally offered, is who we're targeting. They're kind of stuck between worlds in a lot of ways because they are very capable of a lot of things. Some of them need supports that are different from other kids in the same group that need supports, but this particular program was built with that in mind. So we don't just differentiate. We use a pedagogy called Universal Design for Learning, which is moving across the United States as a viable idea. It hasn't come south so much yet in higher ed, but the idea there is that you can teach anyone anything if you give them access. So what we've done is created a program that gives people access to common curriculum, to core ideas that are paramount in higher ed. So reading, writing, math, English, history, social studies, social skills, job seeking. We present them in a different way. The curriculum is certainly not watered down, it's just different. And we give the kids access to all that same material.
Okay, great. So would this be for someone just coming out of high school, or someone who's maybe tried some other things and wasn't successful?
It's for anyone, anyone who would be going to college. So a lot of people, I wouldn't say most, but some people go straight from high school to college. We certainly would take that age bracket. But we also have people, as we know, who started college and then something has happened, life or whatever, didn't work out the way they had started, and so they're coming back to college. We also have people in the program who have been out in the workforce and are now returning into a college program. So there's definitely not an age. We do require that they've completed high school, but that looks very different for a lot of people. And the age factor is not, it's that old adage that you can always go back to school, doesn't matter how old you are. So
okay, great. And this is your first year of the program.
We just launched it in August.
And
yes.
how do you think so far? How are the students liking it?
They are hysterical, and they love life, and they're so glad to be here, and they are so glad to be in college. We've done a really purposeful job of making sure that it's a full immersion program. So for example, if I were getting an Associates of Applied Science and Pragmatic Studies, my major is in Pragmatic Studies. If you're getting a major in psychology, someone else is majoring in math, someone else is majoring in history. We're all just hanging out in the cafeteria together. We're all at the gym together. Some of us live in the dorms, some of us don't. So it's just a different major, but we have done a lot of work to preserve that idea that this is my major, as opposed to this is a group I'm in, or this is a classroom I'm in, or this is a setting I'm relegated to, because we really want everyone to have access to everything. So the kids are one of the things that we've really pushed on, and we will continue to push throughout the whole program because it's built in, is this idea that if you have dyslexia, so what? And you have ADHD, so what? And if you have autism or Asperger's, so who cares? Why does that mean you can't go to college? Because you can. And you can get a degree, and you can learn, and you can come to some self-realizations, and you can self-actualize just like anyone else would do. So yeah, the kids are going through that. They've had the typical growing pains. They had a final this morning, actually, in their computer class, and I was just mentioning that their responses to that are so typical of college freshmen. And so that always makes me laugh, because some of them are worried, some of them are not worried, some of them were really prepared, some of them were not. Very, very typical in that way. We have a learning support therapist that sees the kids twice a week as a group, and then she has individual meetings with them as well, at least every week. And so she's worked with the kids for projects. She's worked with them on assignments that they've done. She's really kind of been paramount to keep the train moving and to keep all parties connected. So they're finishing this week, their first 2 classes. They start their next 2 next week. This weekend we're calling it Pass the Baton. So current instructors are meeting with the instructors that have class next week to really talk about, this is what worked, this is what didn't work. Here's some things that we need to work on with this person. This person is really gifted over here. And so those conversations happen all the time. And it's fabulous.
Oh, great. And so can you talk a little bit about the cohort system and the compressed track and how that works and the types of classes that they would take?
Yeah, so the classes are, so there's a couple of things. In higher ed, it's not just at University of St. Thomas, and it's certainly not just in undergraduate programs or this particular program. But in higher ed, there's been a movement toward compressed track classes. Traditionally, we have a full semester of 15-week class. However many hours you take, it's 3 credit hours, for example, and it takes 15 weeks to get it handled. There's a big push to shorten those. So there's things like mini sessions, winter sessions, summer sessions, and they're all different lengths. But in a full semester, what we've been able to do, and this has been highly successful in graduate programs especially, is we've taken the whole semester and crammed it into 7 weeks. So that does mean the workload is significant, because instead of stretching out everything over 14 weeks or 15 weeks, we've smushed it into 7. So the classes are intense and the workload is the same. There's no, we haven't, again, have not watered it down or adjusted the workload. We just have to get it done sooner. And that has worked out great in this program too. It definitely works in other majors and other universities as well. So they take a class for 7 weeks, then they have a couple days break, like a fall break. In the spring, they'll have a spring break. And then they take another class for 7 weeks. The way it's structured in this program is they take 2 classes for 7 weeks, so only 2 at a time. Then they take another 2 classes for 7 weeks. So that's a total of 4 classes in the whole semester, which makes them a full-time college kid. And for financial aid reasons, and for litany of other reasons, if they want to live on campus, etc., they have to be enrolled full-time. So that 4-class minimum means that they're enrolled full-time. They have a 5th class, though. It's that learning support class. That one runs the whole semester. There wasn't really a reason to break that up into 2 sessions, because it's a continuous thing. That we have a certified learning therapist who does that class, and that's meant to be a supportive mechanism. They take that the whole first year. They have an option to take it the second year if they want it. If they don't feel like they need it, they certainly don't have to take it again. But we've also built it as a cohort. So the kids who start together finish together. There's a lot of research. And again, this is not just this program. There's a lot of research with any college program that graduation rates are increased if kids are part of a group or a team or a cohort, we call it. So the 12 that started now will take all of their classes together, and they will graduate together in 2 years.
So even though they're on campus with all the other students, they're really in their own classes and not taking classes with the general population.
They are taking it's a program, right? So they're taking their own classes, but that cohort idea is not specific to this one. So for example, if you were going to major in interdisciplinary studies and you wanted to be a classroom teacher, for example, you're in a cohort, and you take classes with that same group, and they're sequenced, and all your classes are together. Same thing in graduate school. You're going to get a master's in theology, for example. You're in a cohort. You start together, you finish together. So even other undergrads who are majoring in psychology or majoring in cybersecurity or any of those, they're cohort style too. So our kids are in a group. They take classes. They take all the same classes together. They are sequenced. You take this one, then you take this one, etc. Other than that, though, they're immersed in everything. There's a big fall festival, that starts tonight. That I told them that all had to go to Niwala, which is on the 22nd. So they carry on with everybody on campus. They go to their class. When I go to my math class, you go to your nutrition class, you go to your psych class, you go to your poli-sci class. Their classes are at the same time as everyone else here on campus.
So you're having college experience, but yet able to be in a structured program with supports, which is great.
Correct. It is very structured. But it's also, we do have some kids that need more structure than others, and we have some kids that need less structure than others. And so we've built that into each class. So in each class, we may, of the 12, we have a couple of students that need a lot of supports. We have a couple of students that don't need a lot of supports. They need more like a check-in, check-out, and they are moving through things differently. And then we have the kids that are in the middle. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But it's built to support all of that.
Okay, great. And what vision do you have for the kids or students once they complete the program? Where do you see them doing afterwards?
I want them to do whatever they're going to do. I want them to be the best versions of themselves. So I tell them all the time, you're not competing against anyone else. There's no competition. You are only competing against yourself. So whatever you bring to the table today, is that the best version today? And if it's not, then make it the best version today. And if tomorrow changes, tomorrow changes. But when they graduate, my hope is that they learn about themselves through the program so that 2 years from now, they're able to say, these are my assets and these are my liabilities. And I know how to use my assets to assist my liabilities. I know how to get help when I need help, but I also know how to contribute to society. So some of the kids are going to go on into a 4-year bachelor's degree program because they will have obtained the necessary supports. They'll have compensatory strategies, and they'll be able to do that, and they'll be able to be in something a little less structured. Some of the kids will not. Some of the kids, this will be their end game, and they'll go straight into the workforce. In the 2 years, there's an internship built for the last 2 classes where we place the kids in a spot for work experience. They have options for where they want to go. They can choose all of that if they don't have any idea, and it's pretty split. Some know exactly where they want to go. Some don't have a clue. And so we will facilitate that and place them. And so when they finish, they have a college degree. They have work experience. And so the ones that are not going to go on into another college, a 4-year program, they're going to go into the workforce. But my hope for them is that when they go into the workforce or they go into college, that they're good citizens, that they have relationships with people that are supportive, that they know how to ask for what they need, they know how to be good community servants, they know how to take care of people that can't take care of themselves, and they're making the world a better place. So that's certainly where I hope they are. One of the things we also know from looking at post-secondary outcomes and the research related to that is that kids who learn differently aren't moving up. There's not much upward mobility in the workforce. So they get a job at some point, and then they're still doing that same job 5 years from now or 10 years from now. And some of us are that lucky. Some of us get a job that we love and we do it for 800 years, right? We love it. But for most of us, we get a job and it's entry level, and we are at some point trying to move sideways into something else or move up through that company or move up in rank through that field. And what we're noticing is that, and we have noticed for years, is that our kids are just not, that upward mobility isn't happening. So the hope in this program is that they are able to do that, that when they get a job, they're there as long as they want to be there. But if they want to move up and around through that field or into another field, that they have the skills that they need within themselves to be able to navigate that.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah, it's wonderful they actually come out with an associate degree. And a lot of programs for neurodivergent students don't offer a degree. And it's just classes, and this is wonderful that they can go out there and say, I have a college degree.
Right, and as opposed to a certificate, which I think is valid. I think there's some big universities that have certificate programs, and I think they're valid, and I think that they're very, very rich and vibrant programs for kids that need them. But I think if you are a student who who doesn't need as much support, or you're a student who doesn't have a severe developmental delay or doesn't have a severe and profound disability, then a certificate maybe it may be fine to get, but I think that there's potentially more there. And so here we're really targeting those kids that don't really have any options. We're the only program like it in the country. There are a couple of programs that are similar throughout the United States, and I say a couple, I mean a handful, like 2 or 3. But we are the only one like this, and we're certainly the only one in Texas. So.
I appreciate you putting the program together. And so if somebody wants to get more information, how would they do that and how would they apply?
So our admissions process is very different. I'm the point of contact for that. My email is Torres, Torrest, at stthom, stthom.edu. My cell phone is also probably the easiest way to get in touch with me, and you can call or text. It's 713-899-0690. I'm the point of contact. You can certainly go through the admissions office and they'll route you to me for sure, but our admissions process is very different. You have to apply online, and you would indicate that you were interested in the associate's degree and then click on Pragmatic Studies. There's bullets for those on the online application. There is not a requirement for a SAT, PSAT, ACT, any of that. There's not a requirement for the TSI either, because we're a private school and we don't have to require that. You do have to have completed high school. We do need a current psychoeducational evaluation that demonstrates that your reading, writing, and math levels are 3rd, 4th, 5th grade. That's definitely not a hard cutoff, but that's something we have to address. We are completely capable of completing the evaluations if you need it. Current means that it needs to be done within the last year. So if you have that, send it in to me and let me look at it. And if it has what we need, then we can take it. If not, then I have a slew of people that can get that handled. It doesn't cost parents anything to get that handled. We need a letter of recommendation from someone who's not a family member. And then we go from there. So we do an admissions interview so that the kids can kind of come in and make sure that they're interested. It's not meant to be tricky. It's not a gotcha kind of an interview. It's really just, come on, let's talk about, let me tell you what we got, and you tell me what you're working with, and we can see if this is a good fit. If you are interested, if we're interested, we do tours. Actually, what we've been doing for the last couple of weeks is we have parents who've contacted me who are interested, and they're bringing their kids in. I say kids, right, but they're grown-ups. But anyway, the families, the support systems are bringing them in, and they're spending the day with the current cohort, and they're going to lunch, they're taking classes, they're meeting professors, just kind of get a feel for how things are, and that seems to be working really well. So
wonderful. Appreciate your time. Thanks so much for sharing about wonderful program.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks for having me.